Toledo Bend's kind of a cool lake, and it's really diverse. You can fish a lot of different ways, kind of fish your strengths. There's grass down the lower end. It's cleaner water, you know, not as much timber. And you move up the river, the water gets dirtier. There's a lot of standing timber. It gets flatter. So you end up with it being that diverse. So you can throw different baits, but there's also fish in different stages in different places of the lake. In the spring on Toledo Bend, a few baits that I really think are key to have tied on would start with a swim jig. I use a dirty jig, swim jig, no jack swim jig with braid. There's quite a bit of cover here, but a swim jig's a bait that is able to get through all that cover and get a lot of bites. The swim jig is going to come through. It looks like a bait fish for fish that are spawning, guarding fry, even fish that are post spawn, get up, shad spawn. You're really presenting a bait to a lot of fish for a lot of different reasons here. The rod I use for a swim jig is a Megabass F6.5 70. It's a Orochi XX series. It's a jig and worm rod. It's enough to get them out of the cover, but it's not a super long flipping stick, which gives me the ability to cast it a lot more accurately up around timber, the bank grass, the docks, whatever it may be. I can have a lot more accurate presentation with a little bit shorter rod rather than a big flipping stick. The all-time best baits on Toledo Bend is some sort of plastic, and really when these fish are shallow in the spring, a Z-Man Zinkerz is hard to beat. I like this new money color. It's got a little bit more color to it, some copper and green flake, more like a brim. I rig it wacky style, just hook it in the middle. I use a 2/0 straight shake most of the time. Sometimes I'll use a 1/0 if there gets to be a lot of cover, just because it doesn't get hung quite as much. The rod I like to throw that wacky rigged Zinkerz on is a Megabass Orochi XX shaky head rod. So it's a pretty light action spinning rod. You can see it has a lot of bend to it. A softer rod like this allows me to skip this style bait really well. I can get some speed on it, and I like to skip it, have the presentation where that bait's sliding in there. You draw a lot more of a tension. 10-pound braid and an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. Pretty light line down this clean water. I want the bait to fall really natural. It's something to throw in Toledo Bend, get a lot of bites. It's fun. You might not always catch the biggest ones, but you're going to get a lot of action. Another must-have bait on Toledo Bend is a Megabass Vision 110, the Mag 110. It's not the regular 110, but it's a bigger version, the Mag 110. This is a lake with a lot of big fish in it, big bait. It's something that creates a lot more water disturbance, water color. Especially effective down the lower end of the lake where there's a lot of grass. Definitely works all over, but you get over that grass, a jerkbait's something that is super effective here in the spring, and that Mag 110's my bait of choice. The rod I throw that on is a little bit heavier than a traditional jerkbait rod. It's actually the spinnerbait special. It's a little bit stiffer than you normally use with a jerkbait. You're dealing with a bigger jerkbait, bigger hooks. It's 6'10", so it's a little shorter. Makes it easier to work the bait. You can jerk it with more slack in the line. It's a lot more forgiving to twitch the bait all day. It's not as exhausting as a longer rod, that little bit shorter rod. But Megabass Orochi XX F5 610 spinnerbait special is my rod of choice for that 110 Magnum. All this stuff's available at tacklewarehouse.com.